So a couple days ago, it was the fall equinox. The summer is coming to an end and the weather is starting to cool down and the leaves are starting to turn. Our ancestors used to really honor the seasons. They didn't have the modern day conveniences that we do. They were living with nature and cycling with the seasons. That's something that I want to bring more of into my life, and that begins with honoring my own seasons and my own timing. Also, at the same time, simultaneously bringing awareness to the seasons happening outside of myself. Just remembering our ancestors' ways of life and how when the equinox came around, especially the autumn equinox, they were slowing down and preparing to make it through the winter, because if they didn't prepare their harvests and get their home ready for the winter, then they couldn't survive the winter. And the winter is the perfect time of turning inwards and dreaming up of what you want to create. Most of us in these modern days aren't struggling to literally survive through the winters, but we can prepare in different ways where we're able to just slow down a little bit more. And it's kind of crazy because I feel like the world wants us to be out of sync with the seasons. School and work usually starts up around this time of year. Kids start going back to school. Things kind of just pick up when we should be slowing down. I look at Mother Nature as a teacher for how I can live my own life. During this time of year, the leaves are starting to change, the weather's cooling down, and once the leaves turn color, they start to fall from the trees. For the most part, most trees in the winter drop their leaves and shed, and they're just the bare bones of what the tree once was. And those leaves fall into the soil so they can decompose and create more nourishing soil so it can grow new leaves the next year. And on an inward perspective, the microcosm to the macrocosm, I like to look at my own leaves that are falling and shedding and what my bones are, what will be left after everything that's no longer needed will fall away. And I find that the leaves falling into the soil and decomposing and creating a richer soil that can nourish the tree in the spring and summer months to be a really important component, because I feel like without it, sometimes when we shed things, we can approach it with a mindset of regret or upset about what we've done and where we've been or what we didn't do. In the case of nature, it simply just sheds the leaves and then allows it to die so it can bring nourishment for what is more suitable at that time of the life. I find myself this time of year slowing down and evaluating, what's really important to me, and at the core of everything, what will stick around at the end of the day. What are my what are my roots and my bones and my structure to all things, and then what will grow and flourish from that and what I'm letting go of. This fall season just feels especially fitting now that I am in the phase of postpartum. I'm 10 months postpartum right now, and I guess I kind of assumed by this time in my life I would feel a little more put together, but I still am constantly shedding and shedding things from my old life, whether it's physical things that I did or my mindset in the way that I think and my relationships and how I want to show up for people in life. I feel like every aspect of myself that I once held on to is now starting to fall away, and I have noticed within myself a lot of regret from my maiden years, wishing that I would have done more or I would have done things differently. And I'm just starting to recognize how hard I am on myself, and how, if it weren't for how my maiden lived her life and did all the things that she did, then I would have never been gifted my daughter at the perfect time in my life. And she truly is the greatest joy in my life, and I feel like if I were to have regrets, I feel like if I were able to go back and change things in my past life, then maybe I wouldn't have had her. Maybe I would have, but things would have been different. Yeah, and so I feel like now that I'm letting go of these aspects, instead of like coming from a space of like wishing things were different, I'm starting to approach it as just finding gratitude and honoring the maiden that I once was, while gracefully letting her go and letting go of the things that I'm still holding on to that aren't serving me any longer, that just don't belong in my life anymore, and letting those things fall away so I can enter this new chapter of motherhood. I've been slowly picking back up the pieces of myself, and there was a lot of those pieces that just aren't me anymore. And I don't know, I think I was just doing things that they weren't bad, and it wasn't like I didn't want to do them, but there were things that I wanted to do that were so much bigger than what I was doing. But because I was giving all my energy to these things, I didn't give myself the time or space to like fully just be. And I feel like I'm starting to see that now that I have a child, and part of me really just regrets not living in my full authenticity. I thought I was being authentic, but I wasn't. Once you have a child and your time is limited, it's easy to look back and be like, why didn't I do this, this, and that? I had so much time and I was holding myself back, like out of feelings of insecurity and low self-worth. And like making these videos, for instance, like I was so scared to just start making videos, and I made a few here and there, but I look back and I'm like, I was like traveling and exploring and doing so many cool things. Like if I was making these videos then, it would have been way more interesting, because now my life is boring. I'm just home alone with my baby most of the time and just doing the day-to-day things, which is beautiful, but like it's probably not as exciting for people to watch as it could have been. And I feel like I just feel like this deep regret. I don't know. It's funny. Our minds play funny tricks on us. And I'm like, oh, I should have done that. If I would have done this 10 years ago, I would have been here by now. And I just wasted it on people who didn't care, and I didn't give myself what I needed and desired. And I just feel like it's not healthy to like think like, oh, like I regret all of this stuff. I can always be like, well, I should have done this 10 years ago, but what am I going to think about myself in 10 years. Like, am I gonna look back and regret myself in 10 years, or am I gonna look back and be grateful for the things that I did because I was willing to put myself out there more? And then there's the layer that's like, I was doing great, and I really am just being so hard on my maiden self, and my inner critic can be so loud, and I think it always has been, and I'm realizing how like critical and hard I am on myself. And you know, it'd be easy to say like, oh, it's postpartum depression, but the truth is that these thoughts of like self-doubt and feelings of unworthiness and this inner critic came long before I ever got pregnant. It's been here with me my whole life, and you know, I think in some ways it's gotten me to do some really amazing things. From being hard on myself, I pushed myself to things that I probably could not have done if I was just okay with myself. And I think a lot of those things were like life-changing and a critical point of my life. And like I was saying, I would never be here if it weren't for those moments, and I'm truly grateful to be where I'm at in my life. But I feel like that inner critic and being so harsh on myself is something that I want to fall away and allow to shed as I enter this season of autumn this year. And you know, take the skills that I've learned and take the memories and the lessons from these times and the days of like my maidenhood and honor her, but let that go. And I just want to create something new, and I just want to be so kind and gentle with myself. And I know that, you know, the way that we treat ourselves really starts to reflect how we treat other people. And I just would never want like my own self-criticism to translate over to my daughter, whether she learns it from me by seeing me critical of myself, or I become critical of her, which, you know, I want to say like, oh, I would never do that. But sometimes when we get so lost in our delusions, we subconsciously take it out and project it on other people. And you know, our children are our biggest mirrors and our biggest teachers and our biggest reflections. And if we don't take the time for like deep self-awareness and self-reflection, then we're never going to be able to work through these things. Long ramble, but that's where I'm at with my intentions for this autumn equinox. And I'm starting a little dream catcher. Every time I've gone out in nature, I've been collecting little sticks and feathers and twigs and little nature gifts, and I'm weaving in my intention of letting go of that deep inner critic. I also made a little dream catcher for my baby that turned out a lot better than I thought it would. I've never made them before, and it's been kind of just a nice, relaxing practice. But yeah. Anyways, I have to go. I have to go to the store. Austin's back with my baby, and we have to run some groceries. I would love to start preserving and canning a lot more. I've been doing just a little bit each year so I can learn, but now that I have a baby, I just see the importance of knowing how to can and preserve, and eventually I would love to be able to grow my own food and to be able to preserve that. My mom has always preserved and canned my entire life. She would make spaghetti sauce and canned peaches and pears and grape juice and salsas, all sorts of things really. And so I'm definitely inspired by my mom, and she learned from her mom, my grandma. So it's beautiful that it is getting passed down to me, and hopefully one day I can teach it to my daughter. This last week I got together with my mom and my sister, and we made some applesauce that turned out so good. And it just feels good to know that I'll have some applesauce from some local apples that I can use throughout the year, and I know exactly what's in it. I went up to the canyon this week to see the fall leaves, and my brother came with me. He has a drone, so he got all the drone shots in this video, which was super awesome of him. And then we met up with Austin after he got off of work later, and we did a campfire and had a campfire dinner. It was really fun. It's funny because I want to be social, but it's really hard now that I'm a mom to take the time to spend time with friends and drive far to go see people. So I really have been just spending most of the time with my family, and I really can't complain about that. It's been good to spend more time with my brothers and my sister and my nephews. And
Deer Valley costs $3,500 for a season pass.
I also am trying to find a flow with the baby when it comes to these videos, because when I started making these videos around my birthday and I wanted to do the series, my goal was to make a video each week. That has been really hard with the baby. I just have so many things to do that taking time every day to film and edit takes up so much time. And it's something that I really love doing, but I don't want it to feel like something that I have to do. And I don't want it to be something that I get burnt out from, because like I said, my time's so limited. I want to be doing things that I enjoy. So I think for now, until I can figure out a good flow as of being a mom, I'm just going to share when I feel called to share and not put any extra pressure on myself. I feel like, kind of like how I was talking about the inner critic, sometimes it's so easy to be very critical and have perfectionist expectations of the things that we do, even when it's things that we're doing just because we enjoy to do that. I'm letting that go this fall. I'm welcoming in just a lot of gentleness and kindness to myself. I hope as you enter this fall season and go through this time of fall that you're able to let go of things that really aren't serving you. If you have an inner critic or a part of you that is really hard on yourself, just make the effort to bring awareness to that and let it go, and replace that with gratitude, because we really have so much to be grateful for in this life. I know that it can seem like everything is terrible in this world at times, and then when our own inner world starts to crumble, it can be really hard to see the positive. It's so important to just stop and take a breath and look at what we have to be grateful for. That's what I'm focusing on this season, and I invite you to do the same. If you have any seasonal fall things that you like to do each year that are in harmony with the earth and her seasons and ancestral ways of living, I would love to hear. Please leave that in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and being here, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.